Welcome into the Stardom Fantasy Football Podcast. I am your host, Stefen McKinney, joined as always by Jacob Stevens and Ashton Mitchell. Week 2 is in the books, boys. It was a injury-riddled week 2. I think that's probably the best way to describe it. I was going to say it was a fun week 2, but the amount of injuries we had to go through in our news, I don't think there's a better word for it. We're talking news, waiver wire ads, and the first half of week 3 matchups today. So jam-packed show. But how did you guys make out this week?
I did well.
I almost mounted a comeback against you last night, Stefen. I was down 41 points. Obviously, Alvin Kamara went off, almost had 34 points. But the Saints defense couldn't keep it together. And the Raiders opened up in Las Vegas and dominated. So that's where I'm at. I got dominated too.
Didn't have the goods to make the comeback.
How'd you do, Stefen?
I did all right. As Jacob said, in our main league, I got the victory. So nice 2-0 start there, which is a little different for me. I always usually start pretty slow. But got off to a good start this year, which I'm optimistic about. But I lost a game in the Dynasty League and lost as well, and I think your league. So a couple games didn't go my way, but hopefully we get some good waiver wire pickups this week and make some moves for next week. But we have so many injuries to go through in our news. Jacob was saying before the show that luckily he made it out without one of his players getting injured, which is very impressive. I thought someone had at least one person on each lineup that was injured at some point in the game, but apparently not Jacob.
Not me.
All right, guys, let's jump right into the news.
News and notes.
Little quick on the draw there.
We have quite a few to go through, so buckle up. Here we go. First and foremost, Saquon Barkley has torn his ACL and will be out for the year. I think obviously that's the biggest one. I mean, he was drafted probably second in most drafts, and
all drafts
you've lost him for the year. Like that's a tough one. We're going to be talking waiver wire ads for a lot of these injuries to kind of supplement while some of these players are gone, and especially the Saquon news. We're going to try to figure out who that starting caliber running back will be for the Giants going forward. Next up, Christian McCaffrey is expected to be out 4 to 6 weeks with a high ankle sprain. Another guy, like this is number 1 and number 2 in all drafts.
That was so weird. Like he was like playing and he went to the sideline to get his ankle taped up, and they're like, "Oh no, let's keep you out."
Yeah.
And now he's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks. I don't think it's going to be that long, but still, it sucks for other owners, not me.
Devontae Adams exited the game twice on Sunday with a hamstring injury, but was actually never fully ruled out. He came back into the game, then left again. Didn't really seem like it was a big issue, but was reported yesterday that after further evaluation of the hamstring, it was nothing that serious, and they do expect him to suit up week 3 as of right now. And next, we got to talk about the 49ers just as a team, I think.
Just as a whole.
We're not talking defensive
dropping like
injuries
flies
right now, but they lost their best defender and Nick Bosa for the year. But they also lost Jimmy Garoppolo to a high right ankle sprain, expected to miss at least week 3. He hasn't been fully ruled out yet, but that seems to be the way things are trending. Raheem Mostert and Tevin Coleman got banged up. Mostert with a mild MCL sprain. I know they're still waiting on MRI results. But Coleman as well went out with a knee injury and is already expected to miss multiple weeks with a knee injury. And I think it's looking that way with Mostert as well, that he should miss a couple weeks. So we're going to try to figure out as well for those waiver wire ads what we should do there.
Did you hear about the MRI truck?
Yeah, I heard there's some
That
sort
it
of
broke
issue.
down on the way to San Francisco.
Yeah.
That's pretty terrible.
I think the weirdest one was the Tyrod Taylor issue. There was some chest issues where he's having trouble breathing during pregame. Justin Herbert figured out that he was going to start seconds before the game, before kickoff. And he actually came in and looked pretty good for his rookie debut. I almost beat the reigning Super Bowl champions. Took them to overtime. So impressive start from Justin Herbert. But Anthony Lynn has come out and said that if Tyrod is 100%, he will be the starter there, which is a little surprising.
I saw somewhere where someone said, I got a feeling Tyrod Taylor's going to be about 90% the rest of the season.
The next, I think the second most surprising one of the week was Courtland Sutton has been ruled out for the year with a torn ACL. He was recovering from a shoulder injury.
The MCL.
What kept him out in week
joint.
one.
Can't remember.
And actually played week 2, and then came off the field with a knee injury, and apparently it's actually a torn ACL. So he has been ruled out for the year, which is disappointing.
Did you hear how many ACLs were torn this weekend?
No.
7.
Wow.
7 ACLs torn.
That's ridiculous.
So sad.
Yep. Sad news for Courtland Sutton. I was excited for him. See if he could, show that same form as he showed last year. But guys, Jerry Jeudy might get a chance to, break out early in his career.
Noah Fant as well.
Yep.
Definitely bump them up.
Yep. Paris Campbell, who Ashton was so high about in week 2, was expecting a big game, came out with a PCL injury. They're saying it's not quite as bad as an ACL injury, but it's still a significant setback, and he should miss a substantial amount of time. At this point, he's probably not worth rostering. I just think he's going to be out too long for him to take up a spot on your bench.
PCL is isn't it pectoral clavicle ligament? Isn't it
Sounds right.
Yeah, we'll just go with that.
Sounds medical and good. I guess that bodes well for Michael Pittman, and hopefully Ty can turn it around there. What do you guys think on that? Those kind of the people you're looking to get more targets?
Yeah, I think Naheem Hines should benefit from this. Little short routes, things like that.
How about our hometown boy, Mo Alley Cox? VCU basketball player. Dominating.
Yeah, he was a surprise. He was a surprise week 2. Stud. But we'll have to see what that breakdown looks like moving into week 3.
Disregard, guys. It's posterior cruciate ligament.
Yeah. That's. I liked what you said.
It's the podomerus clavivorous.
It's where your body hurts and you can't play.
Cam Akers suffered a rib injury in the first half and never came back into the game. After the game, they said it will be day-to-day with Cam Akers. It wasn't as serious as expected.
I got an update on that. Mm-hmm. He actually tore the cartilage off his rib, like I did that one time when someone punched me in the ribs, play fighting. I digress. Oh, I had another thing about Tyrod I forgot to tell you. So he actually had got an injection for his rib injury, and it did something it like basically moved its way up into like his lungs or whatever the injection. That's why he was having the chest difficulty. But yeah.
Okay.
That was cool and bad.
So it was a reaction to his injection, not
right.
Okay.
It was to his rib injury, which he saw because he was on the injury list on Friday.
Okay.
With ribs.
I had ribs for lunch.
Too many ribs.
Next up, Drew Lock is out 3 to 5 weeks with a shoulder injury. Jeff Driscoll came in and looked pretty good in his absence. So I don't know if it's too much of a downgrade there for Judy and Hamler and Fant and all those guys.
Yeah.
But we'll have to see with an actual full game. Rashad Perryman suffered a sprained ankle and may miss a game or two, according to Adam Gase. He hadn't really made an impact so far in this season.
Well, he missed the first game too, right?
Yeah.
The
The Jets
Jets,
as a
man.
whole really haven't made an impact so far this season.
That's
so
correct.
I don't know if you're for a game or two, but someone maybe later on in the season who might, become relevant again. We'll have to see. And then lastly, Sterling Shepard has suffered a turf toe and is likely to miss at least week 3, if not more. I think Darius Slayton should continue to make his way up fantasy boards. Has looked good so far this season, so expect him to continue to be the main option there. Maybe even Evan Ingram can make himself back to relevant. He hasn't looked good so far, but we shall see.
Running out of options over there.
Well, Golden Tate's still there. He's just a little hampered, but he's also a little old, just a little bit, not a lot of it, but kind of bit.
That is all the injuries we have. I'm sure there are plenty more that we could have gone through, but those are the most relevant that we thought. We'll continue to update you guys. In next episode, we'll talk about ins and outs for maybe not these players, since we expect most of these players to miss games, but some of the ones that are less substantial. But let's move on to the waiver wire ads, guys. These kind of go hand in hand with all these injuries. This is going to be a big week for waiver pickups. Some of these guys are going to be kind of anchors of your team for the rest of the season, given these big injuries we just talked about. So somebody that you guys want to talk about first is someone that really sticks out to you guys as kind of the main waiver wire ad.
I don't know if I have a main one. I mean, it's kind of up in the air with a few of these. Like
Josh
Darrell
Kelly
Henderson.
would be up there for me. I know we've talked about him before, but he looked really good. I don't know if you guys saw much of him running around. I was confusing him with Austin Eckler at some points. I was like, whoa. Sorry to cut you off there, Ashton.
No, you're good. I was going to say with Devontae Freeman visiting the Giants this week, I mean, depending on that outcome, that could be a solid pickup. I mean, they need help in their run game. They were struggling even when Saquon was there. Their offensive line scares me, but if they can get that going and have Devontae come in and he can get the workload, then that might be a good pickup for them, for y'all too.
And Freeman also visited the Eagles, so it could be a NFC East bid. He'll probably go to the highest bidder. I don't know if he'll care.
Eagles try to snipe him so the Giants don't have a chance.
But which would suck for Sanders because I think he might go with the Giants because he'll probably have a larger role carved out for him, with Saquon gone and everything.
Yeah, we'll see.
Another guy, you love the story for Jerick McKinnon. He's been injury plagued his whole career, and he's actually looked good this last game. And I mean, I can't imagine you holding on to somebody like they kept him a spot on the team last year after he was out for the season once again. I mean, I don't know if he's going to get like a heavy workload though, like if he does get in there, how much are they going to let him do? And we were talking about it beforehand that my name is Jeff Wilson, had some big weeks last year whenever he got a few carries. So what are you looking at, Stefen? What are your
Yeah, I think there's a lot of running backs to be had. As you said, Josh Kelly has looked great so far. He looks like he just stepped right into that Melvin Gordon role and is getting a lot of the rushing work. He's only 32% owned, so if he still is available in your league, I think he's a great pickup just because he's going to be relevant all season unless there's some sort of injury. Some of these other guys might not have that sort of full season relevance.
short-term value?
Great short-term value. Like Jerick McKinnon, but I think Jerick McKinnon as well will have long-term value. When he gets to have to split reps with Tevin Coleman and Raheem Mostert, it's just hard to pick those weeks that he's going to be great. But
he's a top 20 running back right now.
Yeah, I think he's already scored twice this season, but he hasn't had very many touches. I think he only has like 9 rushes on the season, but has been super, super efficient with those touches. But yeah, Jerick McKinnon and Jeff Wilson, I think, will be the main benefactors there. If you expect Mostert and Coleman to be out multiple weeks, McKinnon should be a locked and loaded starter for you for at least until they come back. Devonta Freeman, I think, is more of a safe pickup because he will get picked up. He's going to get picked up by someone.
But you're still waiting until it happens, and then you don't quite know what shape he's in yet.
Right.
But I think he'd be more of a long-term value as well, but you might have to wait a few weeks.
Yeah,
so
but
it depends what your bench is looking like if you have the room to hold someone that long.
Right. That's the worry, though, is like Devonta Freeman didn't look great last year for a Falcons team that he's been great on before. So is the issue just Freeman? And even if he does come in and is automatically the starter for a team like the Giants, like, is that really that great for fantasy anyway? Like, is he really going to be that significant of a fantasy player that, you know, he deserves a starting role on your lineup? Or
you asking me?
Depends on how you draft and what your team's looking like right now.
Yeah, man.
Well, Todd Gurley still isn't doing so hot down there in Atlanta either. So I know that offensive line isn't great either. So it could have been a little bit of both. I mean, I do feel like Freeman lost a step, but I mean, let's say all these other people get added and Devontae is still there, and I didn't get the other guys I want. I'd probably take them later on, but there's some other guys I have priority over him for sure.
Gotcha.
And Mike Davis, the receiving option of a running back to replace Christian McCaffrey. I mean, he looked pretty good in the game once he came in. Do you have any interest in him, or do you think it's going to be a real committee down there, or just does the pass catching kind of give you hope for like half PPR and PPR leagues?
No, I mean, I think he's been relevant in terms of pass catching this year, but we saw Mike Davis last year for Seattle. He was super, super good. Like, he looked great when he had the opportunity. I think some of these other backfields are a little bit more confusing with the splits. For example, with the New York backfield, like there's Deion Lewis, there's Wayne Gallman. Now you have the question mark of Devonta Freeman coming in. Like, you don't know what that split's going to look like. Whereas in Carolina, I think it's going to be all Mike Davis until Christian McCaffrey can return. So yeah, I'm high up on Mike Davis. I'm higher on Mike Davis than I am any of those Giants players. Even though Saquon's going to miss the rest of the season and McCaffrey's only going to miss 4 to 6 weeks. I just think I'd rather go with the
More
sure
valuable
thing. Yeah.
How about Myles Gaskin? I know he's not on our list, but he's continued to look pretty good. He had 11.2 points this past week, and he's playing the Jaguars on Thursday. Do you guys have any interest in him?
I thought he looked good. I think it's like a boom or bust situation. I don't know how consistent he's going to be. I'd like to get.
I mean, so look at this. Look at this. He had 7 carries for 46 yards, 6 receptions for 36 yards. How do you feel about that? And he had 4 receptions the game before and 9 carries the game before. So he's kind of getting the same numbers here.
Yeah.
But he's getting it done on the receiving side.
Yeah, he's floating around that 12 to 15 touches a game mark, which I think is kind of the minimum that you need to be relevant. I just don't know if I want a Miami running back.
I mean, Burita and Howard are still there. It's
Howard keeps
so
taking
weird.
Those goal line
the goal
touchdowns
line,
away,
yeah.
So I don't know if you want that. Value. Yeah, but he does seem to be their number one kind of favorite guy to lead the way from the running backs, which is very surprising given that they brought in Howard and Burita in the offseason. So I think that's really where the surprise is. But Darrell Henderson came in for Cam Akers and just he looked fantastic. 100+ rushing yards. Malcolm Brown exited the game as well. So Darrell Henderson really got the chance to finally, get a couple carries and made the best out of it. So does that make this LA Rams backfield even more confusing now? Like, it was already confusing enough.
Yes, it does.
With Brown and Akers.
I think Sean McVay's been pretty honest and says he wants to be like Kyle Shanahan and run the hot hand, and that is exactly what's happened these first two games.
Yep.
What do you think, Ashton?
Yeah, it's going to be a committee. I mean, until we see otherwise, expect it to be a shared backfield.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes it difficult to know who the hot hand's going to be week in and week out and who to really start. Because, I mean, there's going to be some weeks that you're going to miss if you're going to start one of these three guys. Like, you're going to plug one in after they came off a good game, and it's going to be someone else leading the backfield that next week. So prepare yourself for some frustration. Maybe, sell high on these players when they do come off a good week, just knowing, like, if all three of them are healthy, they're probably going to split carries pretty evenly. So maybe look for a game like this where Darrell Henderson's coming off a great game and try to sell high on him just to give other people hope that, oh, maybe he's their guy going forward. The other people I wanted to talk about was, again, we talked about him a little bit before, but Lazard and Marquez Valdez-Scantling, we talked about him on last week's show. But especially with Devontae Adams coming out of the game with a hamstring injury, even though he's not expected to miss time, like, these guys are still going to get work. They had another great game this week. So definitely guys to check and see if they're available. I think currently Lazard is 40% owned and Marquez Valdez-Scantling is 26% owned. So it's worth taking a look, seeing if they're out there. I think Marquez Valdez-Scantling is like 20th right now in terms of wide receiver ranks.
He is.
So, I mean, if that guy's still available, obviously he's worth picking up. Alan Lazard is 26th. So these guys, if they're available on your waiver wires, definitely make sure to pick them up if you have the room on your bench. But is there anybody else you guys want to hit on? I know there was a big game from Jordan Reed.
Russell Gage is someone else I would talk about
sure.
with the chance of adding him. That offense is just crazy. They're just throwing the ball like wild men, and Russell Gage just keeps doing it. Julio dropped another touchdown, but obviously Calvin Ridley's taken most of those. I think he's got 15 receptions on the year. He's got 21 targets in 2 games. Oh. So, like, he's this past week against the Cowboys, he had 6 receptions, 46 yards, and a touchdown. The week before, he had 114 yards. Obviously, that was a lot more yards, but the points basically evened out because he got a touchdown this game. I don't know if he's going to get looked at more in the red zone with Julio kind of struggling, but I think he's got a deeper league flex consideration, I would say. I mean, it's on down there. But
what's going on with Julio?
Well, they're saying Julio actually had a hamstring injury on that play where he dropped the touchdown, and they actually expected to be a little bit more serious.
That's pretty handy. Pretty good little excuse, right, when you drop a touchdown.
No, they do expect it to be a little bit more serious than they thought.
Yeah, I did see that.
And he could potentially miss time. So
that might make Russell Gage
hypes up everyone else.
Yeah, if Julio misses, Gage, I think is a good pickup. I think Gage's value has been boosted on his first 2 matchups. Like, the Seattle secondary and the Dallas secondary have not been the greatest so far to start the season. So
he's got Chicago, Green Bay, and then Carolina. Those are his next 3 games.
Yes, some tougher matchups in the first 2. Carolina, he should be fine to exploit. But I think Gage is going to be a matchup play rest of the season. We've seen games where Matt Ryan just throws it for 400-plus yards. So if we have those games, Gage should be a fine play as a flex. Anybody else you guys want to talk about?
I think that's it for me.
Yeah, I'm good.
Get in some matchups, baby.
All right, guys, let's talk first half of week 3 matchups. We'll start off with, I think, the most exciting game of the week, the Thursday night game. Miami Dolphins at the Jacksonville Jaguars, 44-point over-under, with the Jags favored by 2.5 points. What do you guys make of this game? Do you find it to be just as exciting as I do, or what are y'all's thoughts?
I always enjoy watching Fitzpatrick out there doing his magic.
It's magic, baby. Yes, sir. My boy Gardner Minshew has been putting on a show so far this year. So I'm expecting I'm expecting things to go. I think this is going to be I think they're going to hit this over. I don't think it's going to be. I mean, I don't think their defenses are going to stop anybody from scoring 44 total points. I think Fitzmagic's going to be airing it out. I'm actually going to start Devontae Parker this week after 2 weeks of terrible decisions. But I mean, Gesicki, he had 27 points this week. He went off. I'm not really like we kind of talked about the Dolphins backfield, and I think he's still avoiding it. But James Robinson, I think he's a legit starter for the Jaguars. What do you guys think of the other options in that game?
Yeah, I really like Devontae Parker this week. Finally, he gets a good matchup. He scored last week, but I think as long he's getting banged up, he's having some lingering injuries, but I think as long as he's ready to go 100%, he should be a great play this week. Gesicki, like he was almost my sit of the week last week again, but he's so talented, so athletic that he should be able to exploit these bad matchups, especially if Fitzpatrick's just going to air it out. Avoiding all Dolphins running backs, even though one of them's probably going to have a decent game. Gardner Minshew should continue to look really good. He's looked good so far this season with two harder matchups than the Dolphins, so he should be fine here. We just saw Josh Allen just absolutely destroy the Dolphins, so expect more of the same for Gardner. I'm excited for all these wide receivers for the Jaguars, even though we've seen this really good secondary in Miami. Byron Jones got a little banged up at the end of the game in week 2. So expect
he was already banged up before it. So they're kind of, I see what you mean. A little struggling out there.
Yeah. DJ Chark, Keelan Cole, and LaVisca Chenault should all have decent games. It looks like Gardner's kind of airing it out to everybody. Doesn't seem to have a favorite target so far this year, like we saw last year with DJ Chark. But I think all 3 of them should be in your flex consideration.
Guess where Keelan Cole is ranked so far this year?
Where?
16. 16 in the wide receivers.
Yeah.
That's insane.
What about you, Ashton? Anybody that sticks out?
Who you got winning this game?
Jags.
I think it's gonna be a shootout. You guys, what do you guys think it's gonna hit this over, or do you think it's gonna be 22-22?
It could be a shootout. I think it could
21,
be a very surprising, entertaining game here. Fitz had a great game this week. Minshew's on a hot roll. Robinson looks really good. I don't know. It could be a really good game. Depending on who you have on your roster, Minshew and Fitz could both be starters. Robinson looked really good this week. I wouldn't mind starting him, maybe RB2, RB1, depending on who you have. Like you said, Cole is on a hot hand right now as well. So I don't know. You could have some pretty secret sleepy players here that could come up and get you some solid wins. Right?
Wake up. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Be aware. Be aware.
Yeah, it's surprising the Dolphins actually kept in that game with Buffalo on Sunday.
They were. It was like down to the wire, man.
Yeah, it came down to the end of the fourth quarter there. So expect them to keep up with the Jaguars. We'll see what happens. The first of Sunday's games, we have the banged up 49ers versus
the banged up Giants.
The New York Giants. All the guys that we drafted on these teams, they're possibly going to be out, not playing. So we have a 42.5 point over-under. 49ers are still favored without their starting quarterback and running back and most of their wide receivers. So most of their offense and probably George Kittle. So basically their entire offense.
Jordan Reed is basically George Kittle. Isn't that right, Ashton?
12 concussions later.
Don't get me started on Jordan Reed.
Look, man, I think these guys are going to come out and bubble wrap. I think they're going to be playing in slow motion. These guys are barely going to be hitting each other. Like, look, guys, let's just take this one easy, okay? I think Nick Mullins, he's done well in filling in for Jimmy G and playing against the Giants. I think he could have a decent game if you're looking for a streamer out there. You don't have a great matchup or someone got injured. Maybe you had Jimmy G. Go ahead, throw Mullins right on in there. We kind of talked about the running backs. from the 49ers side. And the Giants, it's still a mystery as well. I don't know. I mean, I think the 49ers starting either McKinnon or Wilson would be safer than Lewis or Gallman at this point. Yeah, the receiving options on the 49ers isn't great, but as we spoke about earlier as well, Slayton and Tate should be and Ingram should be just fine for the Giants.
Yeah, so for the Giants side, if let's say for some crazy reason they decide not to sign Devonta Freeman, between Dion Lewis and Wayne Gallman, who do you guys, if you had to pick up one on the waiver wire and start them, if you guys are just really like, oh, your running backs are banged up, which one is kind of the one you're more optimistic about?
I think Gollum has a chance to come up and take the reins from Dion Lewis, but I think it's going to be Dion Lewis's game off the bat.
I would say 100% Dion Lewis.
Yeah.
Because Gallman was in a healthy scratch yesterday or on Sunday. He wasn't even active. So
yeah, I'm saying down the road. Season-wise, yeah. But
if they don't sign somebody, yeah. But I think Dion, like you said, Lewis is probably the one for now.
Yeah, I think I'm on the opposite side of you. I think Gallman is 100% the guy. He was a healthy scratch
for this week.
Going forward, I think he's the guy. If Devonta Freeman isn't signed, Wayne Gallman should be the super fantasy relevant one. We've seen it last year where Saquon got banged up and Wayne Gallman filled that role. Dion Lewis wasn't a scratch because he has more like pass catching value, whereas Wayne Gallman wasn't going to split carries with Saquon. Like Saquon is clearly like their main guy, but I think Wayne Gallman's more of that, downhill runner guy who can go between the tackles, where Dion Lewis is more of a specialist pass catching
receiving. Yeah.
So you say if you have Barkley on your team, he's down. Now you need a running back to fill in. You're struggling with running backs. You have to pick up Dion Lewis or Gallman.
Yeah.
You're going to pick up Gallman and start him?
Between them two, I'm taking Gallman, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, if I can get McKinnon or Mike Davis or Joshua Kelly, I'll take any of those three over
Right.
the Gallman, Dion Lewis confusion.
All right.
But yeah, I mean, for the rest of the guys, like this 49ers offense, like I don't know if I want to start anybody except for probably McKinnon. We saw when Nick Mullins played that he loved George Kittle, but if George Kittle doesn't play, does that carry over to Jordan Reed, or is that just because he knew George Kittle is, elite talent in the NFL, or does he just want the safety of a tight end?
I think Jordan Reed is a great play if he's healthy, because he's absolutely talented when he's healthy and on the field. But when he did his stint in Washington, he was never healthy. Like he couldn't last a full season. So using him in increments like this in San Francisco, I think is a smart move, especially just as a filler for Kittle. So. Yeah, I mean, if Kittle's out next week and you have the opportunity to pick up Jordan Reed, I think it's an absolutely safe play.
Yep. All right, let's move on to game 2 then. Let's talk about the Washington football team versus the Cleveland Browns. 44.5-point over-under, with the Browns being favored by 6.5 points. Ashton, we always let you take the lead for the Washington football team, so we'll give it to you again.
You're not starting Dwayne Haskins, that's for sure.
Come on, man. We want to start him.
Antonio Gibson finally got a touchdown this week, which was nice to see. He had some good runs during the game, but I'm just really, really nervous about Washington's offensive line. I think they're ranked third worst offensive line in the league, allowing third most pressure for their quarterback. Which just makes it struggle city for Dwayne Haskins in the backfield there. And against the Browns, I mean, it could be a toss-up. Depending on how Washington's defense plays and puts pressure on Baker Mayfield, but Baker could have a phenomenal game, especially if he continues that connection with OBJ that he showed this week. Kareem Hunt, always going to start Kareem Hunt right now. I mean, he's just rolling. Jarvis Landry's not getting as many looks as I thought he would get early in the season, but maybe that'll shift this week against a poor backfield with Washington. But we'll see. How do you guys feel?
I mean, Terry McLaurin was my sit of the week and just
He
dominated
lit it
Patrick
up.
Peterson.
I was gonna let you. I don't want to make you look bad, but
I didn't want to bring it up.
He could not keep up with Terry. Seemed to be their only option that they wanted to throw it to. So I'm not worried about Denzel Ward covering Terry. I think if they want to throw it to him, they're going to throw it to him. If Dwayne Haskins gets picked off, he gets picked off, but they'll still throw it to Terry. So I think Terry, you're playing him if you have him. I'm not sure if I'm ready to start Antonio Gibson yet. Even though he got into the end zone, he still didn't look great. He is supposed to be this prolific pass-catching running back and hasn't done anything so far as a receiver.
yeah, I think there with Antonio, you just have to let it build gradually until it starts to become more consistent.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's what I was saying. Be aware of their offensive line because they're not helping Antonio Gibson at all right there. So just I don't know. Who else you have on your roster could be a better option there. But until they start to show you a little bit more, you might want to be a little hesitant.
Yep, for sure. And then I think on the Brown side of the ball, like Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt had both fantastic weeks last week. So, I mean, you're firing both of them up if you have them. OBJ, he found the end zone, but
The comeback.
yeah, is he going to continue that? Like, he was boom or bust last year. So, if you have him, I'm not 100% confident with him any week at this point until he shows it on a consistent.
He's going to have
basis.
another touchdown this week. I'm guaranteeing it.
Oh,
How the turntables
guarantee of the week.
of
Guarantee of the week. Bam, bam, bam.
Austin Hooper, there was so much hype around him coming into the season. Is he ever gonna get it going there? I mean, we saw the same thing last year with OBJ, where it's like, oh, they brought in this great receiver. He should get it going.
It's
right off the
Hooper's
bat.
turn. It's Hooper's turn to be the last
terrible
odd man
year.
out. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you guys still starting Jarvis Landry if you have him?
no.
I think
Maybe
he
this
can.
week against Washington, but
Yeah,
I
exactly.
don't know.
Good matchup.
I have him and he's on my bench. So
Yeah. I think it's
If
a
you
good
have better
matchup this week.
options, yeah.
yeah.
All right, let's jump right into the Bengals versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Two teams that just haven't been able to get it going yet. So
Upset alert.
This is a 45.5 point over-under with Philly being favored by 6 points. Jacob, you're thinking that the Bengals are going to upset the Eagles here?
I do. I think Joe Burrow said, I don't think I've ever lost 2 games in a row.
Poor guy.
He said it's not going past that.
Welcome to the
The
NFL.
Bengals look pretty good, man. If A.J. Green could catch some of his 50 targets that he's gotten, I think the team as a whole will just it'll just flow better. The offense will flow better. Obviously, the defense is a question mark, but the Eagles' offense is pretty much doo-doo right now. I don't really have much faith in it. Wentz has looked – they're just struggling, man. Sanders, I tell you what, Sanders looked great this past week, and I'm so happy that he's back. But, I mean, Ertz has struggled. Goddard, he didn't do much this past week, but obviously I just don't know. I know they played the Rams and you got Aaron Donald in your face, but the Eagles offense just hasn't really clicked yet for me. So I'm like outside of Sanders, I don't know if I mean, aside from the tight ends, I don't think I want any other part of that.
As far as the Green Boyd conversation, I mean, Green's getting more targets, but he's just not reeling them in
Yet.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It depends on how you want to play. What's your strategy? Do you want to take the risk and start AJ Green and potentially be highly disappointed, or start Tyler Boyd? He seems to be a more consistent player right now. So I don't know. What would you do here, Stefen?
Yeah, I mean, just to give you guys a little bit of a breakdown here, AJ Green has the 4th most targets in the NFL. And
Probably the 4th least amount of catches.
And he's tied at 33rd for receptions. Some guys that he has the same amount of targets as is Calvin Ridley, who has been a beast. Stephon Diggs, who has been a beast. Russell Gage has 1 less target than him, been a beast. Like, some of these guys that are on the same, target shares.
They'll get it going,
crazy.
guys. Don't worry. Don't worry.
But keep in mind, Joe Burrow threw the ball 60-something times last week. I'm not sure if that's –
He broke a record for completions too, didn't he?
I don't know. I don't know about all that.
No, for a rookie, I think. Go ahead. Yeah.
Possibly.
But against the Eagles, I don't know if that's going to be their game plan. It seemed like quite the odd game plan going into the week last week. I thought it was going to be more of Joe Mixon kind of leading the way with Joe Burrow to, kind of fill those gaps. But they just haven't been getting Joe Mixon involved, which is what we expected with a rookie running back. If you have a rookie quarterback,
QB,
and you have an elite running back, like you kind of expect them to lead the way to kind of take some of that pressure off their shoulders. But it hasn't seemed like that's been their game plan so far. They've fully given the reins to Joe Burrow to just air the ball out until they can win a game. But it hasn't been able to give them a victory yet. So maybe you'll see more of Joe Mixon getting back to their old way of running the ball and get Burrow to kind of open up some of his passing lanes through Joe Mixon running the ball. So we'll have to see. I'm still starting Joe Mixon. I still start AJ Green. I think this is the week he finally figures it out. Tyler Boyd had a great week last week. So I think he's still a fine play there. And on the Eagles side, like they've looked just as bad as the Bengals, if not worse. So Miles Sanders is probably the guy that you have most confidence in right now in this matchup. You want to say Ertz and Dallas Goedert, but they didn't look great last week either. And none of these wide receivers, I don't think you're considering starting right now. Like you're not thinking about starting Deshaun Jackson or Jalen Reagor, are you?
No,
not right now.
Yep. So I think Ertz and Goddard, if you have them, you're probably still playing them. This is a great matchup. So, unless you have a better option, I think you still got to trust the process, trust what we've seen in the past, and continue to throw them out there. All right. Next matchup we have is the Las Vegas Raiders with a surprise victory last night over the New Orleans Saints versus the New England Patriots. It's a 46.5 point over under with the Patriots being favored by 6.5. You guys expect the Raiders to look just as good as they did last night?
No, I do not.
They looked good, but I don't know how consistent.
Yeah, it's time they get their first loss this season. I think Bill Belichick's going to scheme around and take Waller away, and then they're going to have to hope for the best after that. I know Carr spread it out a lot last night, but I think the Patriots defense is going to really come after Derek Carr. Sorry, not his brother. Dude, Cam Newton, my star of the week, baby. Woo, he looked good. I think that they should have won that game. I mean, they were on the 2-yard line. I think it was a bad play call. I wouldn't have called it. Even they did it all game long, but I like to play better when they ran out. I don't know if it was running back or I can't remember who it was that kind of snuck out off to the side because they thought Cam was going to run. He just tossed it right to him. And I think they could have done something like that, or he could have went to the outside, but whatever. Edelman looked phenomenal. I don't know if he's going to put up another career high in yards, but for the Patriots, yeah, I like Cam. I'm still avoiding that backfield. Prayers out to James White and his family right now. But I just don't think he's going to be able to come into the game and make a big impact. But N'Keal Harry looked pretty good. What do you guys think about him this week?
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like he was getting a fair amount of targets. I think he needs to be more involved down the field. It looked like when they did throw
check downs
in the red zone, N'Keal Harry was an option for Cam, but it just seemed like Edelman was his main benefactor when they were actually throwing the ball to move down the field. So I want to see a little bit more of that for N'Keal Harry. Just a little bit better release because he's a big guy. He can win 50-50s. It's just how do you get him involved? How do you make him more of a weapon going down the field? So once I see that, I think he's more of a consideration for me. I don't think I'm starting N'Keal Harry right now, but for me, it's only Cam Newton and Julian Edelman on this Patriots offense, and really it's Cam Newton's offense as a total. Like it's just he's doing everything. Like he's just running every single play. So I think he's going to be a locked and loaded start for you until some team can shut him down, because it just seems like Bill Belichick is just making schemes for him no matter who the defense they go against is. So I'll expect more of the same for Cam Newton. And on the Raiders side of the ball, like I think they had a lot of, energy, a lot of adrenaline because were playing their first game in Las Vegas. It's a new stadium. They were all super, super happy to be out there. So I think that's why they got the victory. That's why they looked really good. But overall, I don't think this Raiders offense is very good outside of Josh Jacobs and Darren Waller. These rookie wide receivers haven't been able to get it going so far. And Derek Carr last night, like to start the game, he did not look like the first quarter. He did not look good, but after that, he got it going. So
yeah, once he started to loosen up and become more relaxed, he started to play better.
Yeah.
But
what about you, Ashton? What's your take for this game? Are you more optimistic on the Raiders here, or?
no, I think they'll come in and be riding high on their win this week, but I don't think they're going to defeat the Pats. Josh Jacobs did look phenomenal yesterday.
So
Darren
good.
Waller is leading the crew over there in Las Vegas. I expect him to still have high targets from Derek Carr. Still not crazy optimistic about Ruggs right now. I'm kind of on a wait and see with that.
Yep.
As far as the Pats go, like you said, just riding high on that Cam performance. Yeah, Bill Belichick's still going to, I think, run the hell out of him and give him plenty of options to move the ball up the field. And Edelman, surprisingly, I had him on my bench. I was debating on starting him this week, and I held back, and I kind of
What
wish
a
I didn't.
mistake.
I know. So now I'm debating on whether I should start him this week. So that could change. I might start him this week. We'll see.
Yeah, and it's probably a good matchup to
Yeah.
play him, depending on who you have. All right, what about the Bears visiting the Atlanta Falcons? The 2-0 Bears versus the 0-2 Falcons, which I think was a surprise at this time. If you asked before the season, you probably would expect the opposite. But this is the 48-point over-under with Atlanta being favored by only 3 points. We obviously have a plethora of wide receiving and tight end options for the Atlanta Falcons. And then on the Bears side, like the guys who we expected to be great haven't been great so far. So you guys expecting that to kind of turn around this game? I mean, this Falcons secondary has been super exploitable so far. Both the Seahawks and the Cowboys have been able to take advantage of it. Do you expect Mitch to have some success here?
Yeah, he could have a good game, but I don't know. I think the Falcons are frustrated with their losses so far. After this, dude, was this just like a flashback to the Super Bowl?
Oh yeah.
Man, Matt Ryan's face. I thought he was going to break down. Yeah, but
I would have.
Mitch Trubisky could have a really good game this week, depending on. I mean, who do you have higher up, Miller or Robinson?
Robinson's going off this week. He's doing it for me. He's on 2 of my teams. I asked him nicely, and it is time that he comes through. I do think the Falcons are going to win this game, but I think it's going to be a pretty high-scoring game. The Bears' offense is really it's not something to be like afraid of, but when you're going against the Falcons and that terrible defense that Stefen was talking about, you got to get pumped up. David Montgomery has looked really good. I'm glad I have him on, I think, 2 or 3 of my teams, and I'm happy to have him because he's really looking a lot better than he did last year. So I'm pretty excited about that, and I think he's going to do just as well this week. I mean, from the Falcons side, we talked about, you can pretty much go with any pass catcher there. Julio, Ridley, Gage, Hurst. Gurley's been kind of disappointing. What do you guys see for him this week?
They need to get him more involved. I mean, at least for time management purposes. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. They're just such a pass-heavy offense. I mean, everyone got a touchdown, I think, this week except for Julio, right? Hayden Hurst got one.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
Ridley had 2.
Had 2. Yeah. So I don't know. Do you see Julio getting a touchdown this week?
Yeah, I mean, if
he's not injured,
if this news,
if his hamstring doesn't come in, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if he's out, like Russell Gage is a great play this week. But I think Gurley just hasn't been part of the game plan in the first 2 weeks. They were going up against 2 really, really high-powered offenses with Seattle and Dallas. So I think they were expecting to come into those games and air the ball out a lot to keep those games competitive. Whereas with the Bears, the Bears aren't a super prolific offense. So I think they're going to be able to be a more balanced offense this week and go in, get Todd Gurley more involved, run the ball a little bit more, have some different looks. So I think Todd Gurley will probably have his best week so far this week against the Bears, even though this Bears defense is probably the best one that they've faced so far this season. And with Robinson, he's in the same boat as AJ Green, where he's getting a ton of targets. He hasn't been able to make the most of it yet. I think this Falcons secondary is the perfect matchup for him to come back and have a great game. So, I expect a big game from both him and Anthony Miller. Anthony Miller didn't basically do anything last week, but had a great week 1. So, again, all these options for both the Falcons and the Bears should be pretty great this week. They all have great matchups. So, I don't think I'm worried about starting any of these guys if I have them, if they are the best options for me. All right, let's move on to the LA Rams versus the Buffalo Bills. This is a 44.5-point over-under with the Bills being favored by 3. The Rams, they've now beaten 2 NFC East teams. They've looked pretty good so far, but they got a tough matchup, especially with this Buffalo Bills defense. And the surprising Buffalo Bills offense with Josh Allen looking fantastic so far. What do you guys have for this matchup?
This will be a good game.
Darrell Henderson and Malcolm Brown's. We've already kind of touched based on it. Right now, coming off that this week, Darrell Henderson seems to be the better pick, but I'm still confused on who I would start here. Tyler Higbee looked phenomenal. If I'm starting a receiver, it'd probably be Robert Woods. I don't know. I'm just not crazy about starting Jared Goff no matter what, but I don't know. What do you guys feel?
I don't think the Bills defense has been super stout per se. They've been in high scoring games and it's kind of come down to the wire. So I think like you said, I think Woods is definitely play. I think Higbee looked great. I don't think he's gonna have 3 more touchdowns this week, but I don't know. Who do you think is going to draw Tre'Davious White, Stefen?
I think it's probably going to be Woods.
Yeah.
I think they line up Cooper Kupp in the slot a little bit more. So I'm expecting Woods to probably see most of Tre'Davious White. But even though, the Bills' matchup so far, they've played the Jets and the Dolphins. So this is definitely the best team that they've gone against. So I don't really think we've had to expect too great of games from the Bills defense. I don't think they were really expecting tough matchups there, where they know the Rams offense is pretty good. So I think that defense is going to step up this week and have a great week. So I'm a little bit more worried about some of these Rams options. Concerned about Woods, concerned about Kupp, concerned about Goff getting it going there. So I'm a little hesitant to start these Rams options. But on the Bills side, Josh Allen has looked like one of the best quarterbacks in the league so far. He's leading the league in passing yards, which I don't think anybody ever expected Josh Allen to do coming into the NFL. So,
do you see him on that outside run on the left this week when he stuffed?
Oh my God!
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Put him in the ground.
What a man!
That's embarrassing.
Yeah. So Josh Allen seems like a start and forget about it type of quarterback so far. These running backs, though, Devin Singletary and Zach Moss, I don't think you're starting either of them right now.
Don't want any piece of it.
Both look pretty bad.
So confusing about what's going on there. And John Brown and Stephon Diggs look like they just have it going. If Josh Allen continues on what he's doing, they're great plays every week, no matter who the matchup is. Which is
Jalen Ramsey doesn't worry you for Diggs this week. I think John Brown might have a sneaky good week because
he's been
Diggs
great both weeks so far. Yeah. But yeah, Diggs has looked fantastic, and I think if he gets Ramsey, this might be a little bit tougher for him.
Just one deep ball TD. That's all he needs.
That's all he does need for sure. What about Higbee? He's coming off 3 touchdowns. Is he an up and down player all season? Is he a boom or bust type of player, or do you think he's going to have a consistent season with just constant production going forward?
I don't think he's going to have 3 touchdowns again, like I said, but I think he's a pretty. I mean, he looked really good this week. Obviously, he didn't look great against the Cowboys, but I think he's a solid player, man. I think he's going to kind of return to that streak he hit last year where he was just one of the top guys for the tight ends. So I think he'll be just fine. I am worried about Cup, man. He's not looking so hot so far this year after he got the bag.
Yeah, I mean, so against the Cowboys, Tyler Higbee had 4 targets, 3 receptions for 40 yards.
They're running the ball like crazy too.
Only 5 targets this week, 3 receptions for 54 yards, but he made the most of those targets with 3 touchdowns. So, I mean, he's pretty consistent with target amount. It's just a matter of opportunity and they getting the ball to him in the red zone. So, he could still be consistent. I mean, he might get 1 or 2 touchdowns this week. We'll see.
I mean, 3 receptions for 3 touchdowns, pretty good. It's pretty,
five receptions.
Oh,
yeah.
5
5 targets. 5
yeah.
targets, 3
targets.
receptions. Yeah, 5 targets. 5 targets, 5 receptions.
5
yards
for
3 touchdowns.
Okay. And then the last game on the first half of our matchups here, the Texans versus the Steelers, 45-point over-under with Pittsburgh being favored by 6. Guys, I think the Texans matchups to start the
Those
year
poor
are
Texans.
so terrible. Like, the Texans are a good team, and they have been made to look like garbage because they matched up with the Chiefs, the Ravens, and now the Steelers. Like, you can't have a worse set of matchups to start your season than that. Everybody thinks, that's going to be a terrible Deshaun Watson season. Will Fuller didn't do anything last game, completely disappeared.
Did you start him, Stefen, by chance?
I did. I started Will Fuller.
Still beat me.
But look, I mean, these matchups have been terrible. Like, there's better days to come for all of these Texans players. Probably not this week.
Day?
It's probably not this week, but in weeks moving forward, they will be a lot better. But guys, we talked about it last week. Like, the matchup with the Steelers just is not a good one. The Broncos actually played a lot better against the Steelers than the Giants did. A lot of these players actually ended up being a lot more relevant than we expected. So
I think I know why.
Okay, go ahead. Give it to us.
They had a short week, so that's it. Because they played Monday night. They were just a little bit tired. But yeah, it's true. They were definitely more susceptible than we expected, especially coming from the Broncos. And then Driscoll coming in, still having success against them. So this is a tough matchup for the Texans. I think you can pretty much go with Juju and Deontay Johnson and feel good about yourself for the Steelers. I think Eric Ebron has been quite the disappointment so far. Big Ben has been great. Are you starting James Conner?
He looked good this week.
Yeah.
16 rushes, 106 yards, and a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, if he's healthy, you play him.
Fair.
And we thought he was questionable going in this week, didn't we?
He was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was.
And then
I was shocked.
Just
yeah.
kidding. Here he comes. Benny Snell had negative points after rushing for over 100 yards. So that's fantasy football, folks.
How do y'all feel about Chase Claypool?
I don't feel anything about him yet.
That touchdown was impressive, but I mean, we saw last year, like, James Washington had some of those plays as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not going out and, spending my waiver priority on Chase Claypool. But if you have banged up wide receivers and you need a flex play, I mean, he could be someone that you can consider.
If y'all don't have Deontay Johnson on your roster and he's available in your leagues, you need to go
doing
pick him
something
up.
wrong.
Yeah.
If he's available, for sure, he should be.
I think it's too late. It's too late, guys. Sorry. You missed the boat.
He's in a position where he could start to threaten wide receiver 1 numbers here, and definitely pick him up if he's available.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
I think he's 84% owned right now. So if you're in one of the 15% leagues that don't own him, you should probably
Those
take a
18
little look.
leagues.
just take a look, make sure he's on a roster because he should have a fantastic rest of season. Game 1, it looked like he was a little lost out there, but game 2, he was everything that he was hyped up to be. So expect more of the same going forward. But what about on the Texans side of the ball? We already said it's a tough matchup, but I mean, you're still, if you have Deshaun Watson, if you have some of these guys, like these are guys that are probably starting options on your team. Are they starting options this week for you?
Man, I mean, I think David Johnson, he didn't look great this past week, but I think you still got to start him. I mean, probably where you drafted him. Maybe I don't know if you have another running back or you picked one up. Maybe he could be a kind of a flex play, but I think he still has the passing game floor. Obviously, they just played the Ravens, and things aren't going to get too much better here against the Steelers. But I don't know which wide receiver to play, so I probably wouldn't play one. Honestly, I just don't know which one.
Yeah,
He got the same amount of touches as week 1 in week 2. He got 11 rushing attempts. But he got 77 yards in week 1 and 34 yards in week 2.
Come on, man. I mean, you ain't got to say all that. You ain't got to say all that about my boy Dave.
I mean, it's clear that if his consistency stays the same, it's just going to be matchup dependent. So keep an eye on.
Yeah, he's going to get his touches.
Yeah, I think Brandon Cooks was the only bright spot for this Texans offense against the Ravens. Had 95 yards. I don't know if that was a result of Will Fuller being banged up. He came off the field in the second quarter and looked like he might miss the rest of the game, but came back on the field and just never got targeted from there on. So I don't know if he was more of a distraction.
Decoy.
Yeah. But, I mean, we don't know what to make of this wide receiver core so far. It was all Will Fuller week 1. Now it's all Brandon Cooks week 2. So I think we need to wait for a better matchup to really see what happens here. These are both guys that are super prone to injury. So I think if anything, the injuries are going to kind of make it clear who the top option is there. But yeah, for now, I don't think I'm going to start Cooks or Fuller this week against the Steelers. It's too bad of a matchup, even though Deshaun Watson seems to make someone relevant no matter who the matchup is.
Are the Texans starting 0-3?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably,
Okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think there's a chance here for the Texans.
Yeah.
I think this is probably their best matchup so far in terms of winning the game. Like, they have better odds to beat the Steelers than they did the Chiefs or Ravens. So
In Pittsburgh. You know how that home field advantage is really big this
with
year.
all those fans out there. But yeah, so I think you could see Watson make someone relevant here. All right, guys. Well, that wraps it up for the first half of matchups. We'll talk second half of matchups on Thursday's show, on Friday's show, as well as ins and outs, some news and other things. But if you guys
And
don't have anything else,
the fan favorite starts and sits of the week,
There we
obviously.
go. Make sure to send up any of your lineup questions. Feel free to shoot them to us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You want to YouTube message us, whatever your preferred method is fine with us. Check us out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well as Google Podcasts now. But that wraps it up, guys. If you guys don't have anything else, goodbye.
Nope.
That's it.
See you next time.